Okay, we need to talk about a few reminders about the test in general and about questions in general. First of all, when a question asks you about a certain line or a certain sentence or a certain paragraph, go back into the passage and read it and mark it. You need to highlight it, underline it, circle, put a box or circle around it. Do not, under any circumstances, answer a question like that without going back. Okay, the problem here, you guys think you can do it from memory, and you think, oh, well, if I'm smart, I can do it from memory. That is not going to work. Okay, I can't do it from memory, therefore you can't do it from memory. It's one thing to do from memory when you're just kind of talking, but when your test is this important, you've got to go back and look when you're trying to find the information for an important purpose. Okay, remember, you are not looking for the exact words, because that was third grade where they might actually have had the words stated in there and you're just going back to find it. There are worksheets like that. That might happen when you're just looking to fill in some information from social studies, but they aren't looking for whether you know information from a social studies book. They are trying to find out if you know how to infer information, how to read a sentence and know what they mean by that and be able to connect that to an idea. So you might look for clues you might look for a word or something, but just because a choice has the same word as something in the passage doesn't make it the right answer. Okay, remember, when you infer, that means you are using evidence to draw conclusions. You need to be very careful not to just use your prior knowledge or your opinion of what might happen. This will cause you to choose tricky choices. So I still while I'm walking around and you ask me a question and you'll say, well, I think it's this because, or you'll miss a question and say, I don't understand. And I was like, well, why did you think that was the answer? And your answer will be, well, because I thought they might, probably. There is no might or probably. You have to go find some kind of evidence. It's not going to tell you exactly. You have to use the clue. So you need to think of this like you're a detective who cannot convict a criminal without the real evidence. You have to actually be able to connect what you find in the passage to an effect or a result in one of the choices. Okay, you have to have real evidence. If you don't have real evidence and you have bad evidence, they'll let the guy go. So don't just say, well, I think he did it, so he needs to be convicted. He's not going to get convicted. He's going to get let go. So your choices are going to be wrong if you have that kind of thinking. If your evidence, that should say your, your evidence right there should say your evidence isn't good evidence, your answer will be wrong. Okay? Think about the things that were in the video. So when you are answering questions, if it's one that's something like you're having confusion on or something, or it's one that's similar to one you've had trouble with before, then think about what I told you in the video that you should have done, how you should have gone back in the passage, what you should have been looking for, what kind of strategy you should use, and use those. Okay, more general strategies. You have to read carefully and go back and reread always. If you'll notice on the videos, if you watch several different ones and I still go clicking back into the passage, or if I put the paragraph down below, I'm pointing out where that is in there. I'm underlining things, I'm circling, I'm rereading and double checking, and I'm thinking about how that clue goes with the choices I'm choosing between. And I do that for each choice sometimes. When it's the really confusing ones, or when you're comparing two passages, you need to look at the beginning of one choice, go back and look, next choice, go back and look, next choice, because you cannot, I don't care how smart you are, you cannot just do that all in your head and keep it all straight. That's why they give you the passages. Do not answer from your memory. Again, can I say this enough? Do not answer from your memory. Go back and make sure that you're remembering correctly. It's not designed for you to memorize this. That's not what this test is about. I don't even do that. I've said this already. I go back and read for evidence. Okay, make notes, underline, highlight, use stars to help note items. When you're going back in the passage, write a label next to it. Underline it, highlight it. Something when you're going back to make sure you can find it when you go back to prove it, etc. Use those strategies. I'm seeing a lot of papers still turned in with hardly anything marked or written other than what I make you do, and half the time that's not much. This, I'm asking you to do it because it helps. Okay, especially on the questions that go with two passages, guys. We're still having a lot of trouble with these. you need to read the choice that has the part of the choice that goes with one passage, go back and check that. Then go check the second part that goes with the other passage. When they're comparing and it's talking about, well, this passage this passage that. Check each half separately. I've said this multiple times. Draw a chart to keep track of which ones are true and not true, so you find out the one that has both sides right. Okay. You're going to take about 30 minutes for each passage. Certainly there might be some that are a little longer, some that are a little shorter. A poem is a little faster reading, but it takes a little more work on the questions because you have to think about all the figurative language and stuff. But keep an eye on staying fairly close to 30, maybe 40 minutes on a couple of them. That gives you a little cushion room, but that lets you know if you haven't finished between 3 and 4 of them at the halfway mark, then that means you're going to be getting too far behind. So just keep an eye out. Don't panic if it's a little over 30. There's still a cushion there, but if you're taking too much longer, you need to be aware of that. All right, so like I said, you should be about 2 passages in an hour, about 2 passages in the next hour, between 3 and 4. If you're finishing 4 and you finish 3 of them, but you're in the middle of 4, right when I say 2 hours left, you're probably about right.